Well, it's good to see you again. I would like to try to tie together the process from the beginning to end. And part of the thing you caution us about, but there must be a time you have to do it, is to get overly confused about action. Okay? So...
Well, it's not confusing to us. We would not act until the impulse to act was strong.
That's basically the gist of the question.
In other words, that's why we love this vortex conversation. We would make sure we're in the vortex and then we'd act. And if we're outside the vortex, we would not take action. And some say, well, Abraham, I haven't been in the vortex in years, but I've got to make the bed, cook food for the kids, and go to work. And that's all action. And we say, but it's not the kind of creative action that we're talking about.
No.
So the answer is, do whatever you can do. Take whatever action is required. Focus wheel is an action. Writing things down is an action. An affirmation, we would say, is an action. Making sure that your conversation is the way you want it to be. Speaking is an action. In other words, we would do anything and everything that we could do to get in the vortex. And then we would let the inspiration take it from there. It'll come in the form of an impulse. In other words, you know that feeling when you just get an idea that you want to do something? It's an impulse that... I want to call that person. Not I need to call that person. I want to call that person. Even an impulse to go get a burger. An impulse that when you think about it, there's no resistance in it, so it's just easy to do. And when you follow those impulses consciously, you'll notice that everything cooperates with you. Sometimes, as Jerry and Esther are in the bus on the day that they plan to drive, and the time that they leave is negotiable because they could stay till noon as far as the campsites are usually concerned, but they usually want to get an early start as far as the distance that they want to drive. And sometimes there may be traffic in the city that they're leaving. Sometimes there may be traffic in the city that they'll be approaching at the end of the day. And so they are considering, their intention is the most comfortable, exhilarating transfer from one place to another.
Okay.
And so that's always in the mix. And so sometimes the night before they will say, well, let's plan on getting up at 6 and leaving at 7. And Jerry always laughs because he knows that Esther doesn't want to get up at 6 and she doesn't want to leave at 7, but she's willing to if he will motivate her enough. If he will say, you know, we want to miss that morning traffic, or, you know, we're going to drive 500 miles that day. But those mornings where they motivate each other to get out are not nearly as comfortable of days as the days when they wake up and have the impulse to go, because their impulse understands the traffic. Their impulse understands the weather. Their impulse understands the roads they're going to drive on. In other words, that guidance that is coming forth from within knows everything that they have the potential of converging with. It knows about the convergence of the thunderstorms. It knows about the convergence of the traffic. It knows about the convergence of the construction. It knows about the convergence of the other drivers. So if you take the time to stay off the subject of contention and you just meditate your morning, you get into the vortex, you do some focus wheels, you do the in the vortex work, in the vortex work, in the vortex work, now your impulse about leaving and your brilliance and clarity about what you do in your process of leaving puts you in perfect rendezvous. You get an impulse. This is a good fuel stop, even though it wasn't your intention. Let's stop and get a Starbucks, even though it wasn't your intention. In other words, as you follow your impulses down the highways of your life, following the impulses, you'll rendezvous with the best of all of it, you see. Sometimes they'll get an impulse about something they didn't even think they wanted, and they'll meet someone that they know they wanted to meet. And they'll just grin at each other. That was what that was all about, wasn't it? That made perfect sense now. But don't ask your vortex or your inner being or anyone to lay out your itinerary for you. We want you to leave at this time, and we want you to leave at this time, and we want you to... And if you look left, you'll rendezvous with that. And if you look right, just follow the impulse. The impulses are there, and they're powerful, and you can trust them.
And the degree of the impulse...
But you're not going to get impulses until you get in the vortex.
So take the time to get in first. Follow the impulse back out to take the actions.
That's what we would do.
Okay, thank you.
So if you say, what's on your list of things to do today? And you were really understanding this, you'd have one thing on your list. I'm going to get in the vortex. I thought you had a lot to do. No, I have only one thing to do. I just got to get in the vortex. But I thought you were a doctor. I thought you are a accountant. I thought you are an author on a road tour. I thought you... No, I just have one thing on my list. I just have to get in the vortex. And then, when I get in there, I meet up with my team. My team that travels with me everywhere. What do? Oh, a variety of things. They clear traffic. They line up great meals. They orchestrate everything. They take care of it all. Well, then how do you justify your existence? I gave that up a long time ago. That kept blowing me out of the vortex.